It was the first time we found out that there are plants growing on this continent. Mosses were found growing in Antarctica. After this heroic era, came the colonial period of Antarctica, when several countries tried to lay claim on Antarctica. Between 1908 and 1942, 7 countries claimed sovereignty over this continent: Argentina, Australia, Chile, France, New Zealand, Norway and the United Kingdom. Apart from them, there were countries: the USA, the Soviet Union, Japan, Sweden, Belgium, and Germany, who were conducting explorations, conducting new expeditions on Antarctica, without claiming any territory. During Hitler's rule, in 1939, a German Antarctic expedition was carried out, in which they flew in an aeroplane to take pictures of some areas of the Antarctic. They even dropped metal Nazi swastikas, claiming that the areas where the swastikas were dropped were under the control of Nazi Germany. Surprisingly, during this period, the USA wasn't very active. In 1924, the Secretary of State in America announced their official position regarding the territorial claims on Antarctica. He said that if any country discovers new land in Antarctica, it doesn't mean that the new areas would belong to the country. The land would belong to the country only when there are actual settlements in the area, when the citizens of that country live there permanently. But this didn't happen. Similar to how various countries try to lay claim over Antarctica over the Internet, various companies try to steal your private data. Do you know that to keep your data private and secure over the Internet, using a VPN is one of the best ways? Now, let's get back to the topic. After the end of World War II, these countries started fighting each other over their claims on Antarctica's land. By fighting, I do not mean literal warfare. What I mean is that they were expressing their claims more strongly. These countries set up permanent research centers in Antarctica to show that they have a permanent station in the area. And since researchers were living there permanently, they claimed the land theirs. If you look at the map of Antarctica, there are several islands near Antarctica. The Heard and Macquarie Islands, on which Australia established stations in 1947–48. In 1953, France set up bases on Kerguelen and Crozet Islands. The next year, in 1954, Australia reached mainland Antarctica and set up the Mawson Station. It was on Antarctica's continent. 1 year later, Argentina set up the General Belgrano Station. This was in Antarctica on the Filchner-Ronne ice shelf. There's so much ice in Antarctica, it makes it difficult to know if there is land under all that ice. In this map, you can see there are some ice shelves on the exterior of the land, and these ice shelves have different names. Setting up research stations had become a political strategy of the countries. At one point, the British, Chilean, and Argentinian bases were so close to each other that it was clearly evident that they weren't set up solely for scientific research. It was clearly evident that these stations were being set up for intelligence activities. In fact, the territorial claims of these countries on Antarctica overlap. Look at this political map of Antarctica. The blue dots are the present-day bases of the various countries. The existing research stations in Antarctica. The Antarctic land claimed by Norway, Australia, France, and New Zealand can be clearly demarcated. Their territories do not overlap with each other. But if you look at the left side of the map, you'll see the land claimed by Chile, Britain and Argentina overlap with each other. Chile's claims include the British and Argentinian claims as well. In 1950, the Soviet Union government issued a memorandum to the rest of the world, saying that if a country claimed Antarctica's territory without the Soviet Union's permission, or if it made decisions regarding Antarctica with the Soviets' participation, the Soviets would not recognize any such claims. By this time, Cold War had broken out between America and Russia, and people were afraid that the two countries start their geopolitics in Antarctica as well. These countries were already fighting each other in multiple areas of the world. But no one wanted them to be fighting on Antarctica too. But thankfully, it didn't happen. In 1958, American President Eisenhower issued notice to the rest of the governments, calling for a treaty to ensure that Antarctica would always be a free and peaceful place. In Washington on 15 October 1959, a conference was held on it. On 1 December 1959, the Antarctic Treaty was signed. There were three major points in this treaty. First, Antarctica would be used for peaceful purposes only. Second, everyone would be free to carry out scientific investigation. And third, the results of the scientific observations would be freely exchanged and available to all. Initially, this treaty was signed by 12 governments, including all countries which were claiming territory on Antarctica. But the most interesting thing about this treaty is that the claims of these countries weren't abolished. This treaty merely suspended those claims temporarily. So legally, even now, these countries can continue to claim those territories. And they are doing so indeed. This political map of Antarctica is still valid. Australia claims the largest share. Australia claims 42% of Antarctica. But it is also important to notice that America rejects the claims of these countries. Not only America, most of the countries around the world reject these territorial claims. Not only this, these 7 countries claiming territory in Antarctica do not recognize each other's claims.